the Financial Education Public-Private Partnership, or FEPP, who is presenting this training today. I was born and raised in Spokane, Washington. As I mentioned, I'm coming to you live from the gloomy Eastern Washington. I went to the University of Portland and Eastern Washington University for my master's. My background is as a classroom educator. I've worked abroad teaching English as a foreign language, worked in Glendale, Arizona for 8 years, teaching 5th grade and then 7th grade math, social studies, and social emotional learning. During that time, I also focused on peer-to-peer instructional coaching within my district with the goal of reducing our teacher turnover. And I also have extensive experience with English language learners and English as a second language students. Outside of work, I have, like any good millennial, I've made coffee a significant part of my personality. I am picking up watercolor painting, and I am the pack leader for these little fur babies you see here on the screen. There is a QR code up there, which leads you to my digital business card. Please feel free to click that and save my contact information. If there's ever anything that I can be of assistance with or that FEPP can assist you with, we would love to be able to support you. And then briefly, I have to just let you know a little bit about FEPP and who we are and why we're here talking to you about financial education and social studies. We are a model unique to Washington. We are a public-private partnership, as I mentioned, that was created by our Washington State Legislature with the overarching goal of promoting K-12 personal finance education in our public schools. So we do that through a focus on professional opportunities, professional development opportunities like this one, and reviewing and collecting and packaging quality instructional materials for educators. We also have a grant program that we launched this year, a non-competitive grant that allows for increasing financial education within your district. So if anyone has any questions on that, we can talk about that towards the end. And just a moment of, I wanted to show our mission statement up here, our values, vision, and mission statements, just to demonstrate that we are highly committed to an equitable approach to financial education. We want to make sure that we develop and share resources and professional developments that are accessible to all of Washington's students and educators. That is something that we believe in strongly and are built into our ethos here at FEPP. Okay, so now we're ready. Let's dig into the good stuff. Let's talk about financial education. Yes, we're here to talk about social studies, and we'll absolutely get into social studies, but I have to make a little plug for the importance of financial education, particularly within the K-5 space and the K-8 space. One thing I always want to invite people who attend these trainings to consider is, how did you learn about money as a student or as a child? How did you learn these quote unquote value of a dollar lessons? And as you're thinking about this, you might have a similar experience like me. I remember buying quarters. I got quarters, and I don't remember if it was a gift or if I had earned them, but I was allowed to purchase candy from the machines that you twisted at the grocery store, right? But it was a very tactile experience, those first spending and saving experiences. But will our students have those same opportunities to learn about money in a world where our spending is increasingly digital? And I don't know about the folks in this room, but I definitely do the majority of my shopping is now done online. So I think our students are going to grow up in a world where they're going to have very different challenges that they will be facing as they're exploring their personal finance, the skills and the knowledge that they need to empower themselves to make positive decisions in the future, and the freedom of really financial wellness. So I'm moving on to the next slide here. We also want to remember that as soon as a child can access a screen, they are now being confronted with those spending opportunities. Like I said, I had to hand over a quarter to make a payment. Our students now can touch a button on a screen and purchase $9.99 in game tokens. So what does that mean? What is spending actually going to mean for them? Research is showing us now that these money habits are set earlier than we had really previously thought. I've seen research that says 3 years old. This research that is linked here is that by age 7, we have money habits pretty much established. That doesn't mean that they can't be changed, of course, but this just shows that the um, impact can be made in early education. We also have a 2014 study that'll be linked in this presentation that shows self-responsibility is developing up till age 9. And we know that that is a great connection or a really strong indicator of financial wellness and financial habits, is how much someone has that not only self-responsibility, but that sense of self-efficacy in themselves, belief that they can make the right decision, or if they don't, they can recover from it. I would also just note out that personal finance skills like planning ahead, budgeting, experiencing delayed gratification, returning borrowing items. These are all foundations of, planning ahead, that's saving. Budgeting is problem-based learning. Delayed gratification, that's social emotional development. Returning borrowed items is establishing that trust is the foundation of credit. So it's really just wanting to note that we can start developing these habits in childhood as we carry them into our adult life. And one great lens to look at financial education through is student loan debt. I feel like that's always kind of, it's a part of the conversation when we're talking about financial education. A lot of folks want to focus on the accumulation of debt and whether we're responsibly taking on debt that we can pay back. And so, no problem, Kristen, welcome. This is just a snapshot of student loan debt in Washington. So we own around 28 billion in total student loan debt compared to 1.75 trillion in the United States. I would note that that is also, there's a little difference between public debt or federal debt and private debt. We're looking at about 93% of this is federal student loan debt. In Washington, we owe about, if you owe student loans, you owe an average of 35,000, and that's the reality for almost 800,000 Washington residents. Obviously, if you look at the national numbers, those are so much larger. And one thing I think this really demonstrates is that what we have been doing to this point with financial education has not been effective. We have generations of students who have taken out loans, either not recognizing or not prepared to build into their budget a repayment plan or repayment goals, but also perhaps we have encouraged students to take out loans, or students have been taking out loans without an accurate idea of what the degree they are pursuing will pay yearly. So that is just two aspects of financial education where I'm saying, we could have a real long-term economic impact, not only in the country, but in Washington State by increasing the amount of financial education we're offering to our students. But it can't just happen in high school. It honestly, it's by that point, we can't, backload all of this information into 1/4 of a high school, 1/4 high school class. So that is why we at FEPPP take a much more cross-curricular approach to financial education. And I personally, obviously as an elementary educator, really advocate for it to start as early as elementary school. I definitely think that kindergartners are old enough to start understanding that trust is the foundation of credit, and what you borrow, you have to return. So our approach, like I said, is very cross-curricular. We believe financial education has a place in all of these content areas: social studies, math, reading, STEL. And then we're going to focus today on the history and economics part of social studies and how we can use these standards to really expand our students' learning, not just in the social studies arena, but also in personal finance. And I also just have to mention, this is all financial education is STEL. All financial education is STEL. Both personal finance and social emotional skills are used every day in almost every interaction we have. They are components of our overall wellness and can undoubtedly have an impact on our mental wellness and our mental health as well. And as we're seeing right now, social emotional learning is definitely having a moment. It is, the pendulum swings wide in education, but it's swinging in a good direction right now. Both social emotional learning are, like I said, having a moment, but so is financial education. And I really just like to remember that both of these skills, we've sort of assumed that some of our students are historically, not we, but it's been historically assumed that we're all just absorbing this by osmosis, both the financial education part and the social emotion part. We're just going to pick it up as we go through life. And we're figuring out that has been not the reality for a lot of people. And so we're going to give it explicit and equitable instruction. And that's our approach and our goal. And we really believe that it will impact both our students, like we said, the financial freedom they feel in the future, but also their sense of self-awareness, self-management, and self-efficacy.